7 o'clock, September 4th, I call the planning board meeting to order. Pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, have a roll call. Roy Barron,
Yep.
Dennis Legendre,
Here.
Peter Zavas is not, Tim Otto,
Here.
Martha Eldridge,
Here.
Rick St. Jean,
I'm here.
Steve is missing. And I'm here. Before I went on vacation, I was reamed by the Selectmen and 4 or 5 other town people for the conduct of the meetings. We are now going to read the rules of conduct and deportment. The chairman shall enforce such order and decorum as may be necessary for sufficient conduct of the board's business, guided by a desire to maximize public input on matters before the board. The chairman shall establish such rules of parliamentary procedure as are necessary, subject to the provision that the chairman may be overridden by a majority vote of the board. Oh, Roy or Martha, finish that.
Which one do you leave off on, Connie?
Start with number 1.
Okay. Except for public meetings, hearings duly designated as such by action of planning board, public participation at the meeting of planning board shall be limited to public input segment of the agenda of planning board meeting. Public comment, whether during public input of planning board meeting or during a duly designated public hearing, shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. An individual's time may not be given or traded to other speakers or reserved for other portions of the meeting. Any individual wishing to speak during the public input segment or during public hearings shall raise his or her hand. When recognized by the chairman or the presiding officer, the individual must stand, state his or her name, and if the appropriate group affiliation, and must state the subject he or she will be addressing. Comments must be brief, related to the facts of public hearing or legitimate planning board business. The chairman or presiding officer shall act as timekeeper and shall designate another elected official as timekeeper. Members of the planning board, speakers, audience members must observe proper decorum. Any statements made during the meeting or during public hearing by the chairman, members of the planning board, town officials, employees, members of the general public shall not involve personal, impertinent, or slanderous attack on individual, regardless of whether the individual so attacked is an elected official, town official, or employee, or a member of the general public. The chairman or the presiding officer shall control the meeting. The use of profane, vulgar, inflammatory, threatening, abusive, or disparaging language or racial, ethnic slurs directed at the chairman, members of the planning board, town officials, employees, and members of the general public, or statements by persons attending the meeting which are not made during the public participation segment of the agenda or during the public hearing shall not be tolerated. It is inappropriate to utilize public meetings for the purpose of making political speeches, including threats of political action. The same will not be allowed. Number 9, comments by speakers must be addressed to the planning board. Attendees may not address the planning board unless recognized by the chairman or the presiding officer. 10, discussion between speakers, attendees of the public meeting or hearings are prohibited. A speaker may disagree with or support prior speakers and comments directed to the planning board. 11, if the applicant or her representative fails to attend the public hearing concerning the application, the planning board may take action to deny the application. 12, an application may be continued upon receipt of written notification of the applicant's inability to attend the meeting. The applicant shall notify the planning board prior to the meeting if there will be no one there to represent them and take action in their behalf. Banners, flyers, or other signs are not permitted in the meeting room. The distribution of flyers in the meeting room is also not permitted. If the chairman or presiding officer fails to enforce rules set forth above, any member of the planning board may move to require him or her to do so. And an affirmative vote majority of the planning board shall require him or her to do so. Any decision relating to enforcement of the rules set forth above may be appealed, overturned by a vote of majority of the planning board members. Any person who disregards directives of the chairman or the presiding officer enforcing the rules or generally conducts himself or herself in boisterous or inappropriate manner while addressing the planning board and disturbs the peace of the meeting will be barred from further participation and forfeits any balance of time remaining for his or her comments. If a speaker who has violated these rules refuses to step down, the chairman or presiding officer may ask the individual to be removed from the meeting room and charged with disorderly conduct per penalty of law. The above rules will take effect at the next meeting of the planning board at the adoption of these rules. Then we go to new business.
These were adopted $1993, amended 95, amended to include information of 08, amended to change filing system to map and lot on March of 12, and we have adopted them in August last year. And we will follow them. I don't believe this board right now does not have a very good reputation in town. And I am to blame as much as anybody else. Anyone else wants to comment? If not, we'll move on. Being no public, I will not ask for public input unless Damien's got something. Minutes, approved.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second, John.
Made, seconded, any discussion on it? No discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor? Dennis, right, yeah. Unsatisfied conditions, there are none that have been brought up to date. New business, case number 18-1, site plan review amendment, Hobbs Brewing, Mountain Granny LLC of 755 White Mountain Highway, Route 16, tax map 130, lot 09 is requested a continuance until September 4th to a lot more time for the subsurface approval from DES. Where I can't get on Laura's, I don't know whether they've asked for a continuance, but I will continue this case. Make a motion that we continue the case until September 21st.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Case number 18-4, site plan review. John W. Dawson Jr., owner of 8016B tax map 93 lot 115, was granted a condition site plan review. Nash has requested a continuance until September 4th to address his letter to resolve the following conditions. Conditional approval pending the following conditions: New Hampshire DOT cut, curb cut, Ossipee water and sewer approval, official time, chief letter of inspection approval, lighting plan added to the design plan, shall follow state, federal, and local regulations and ordinances. I came across something the other day, looking at his plan, and there is no certification on it, which is in our regulations of 6.04.4B. Certification, the following statement shall be on the final plan. The site plan review regulations of the town of Ossipee are a part of this plan, and approval of this plan is contingent upon completion of all federal, state, local regulations, requirements of said site plan review regulations, accepting only waivers or modifications made in writing by the planning board. So he has to add that to his final plan. Want that number again, Dennis?
Yeah, please.
Search. It's in the site plan review regulations. 6.04.4.
You can't make a motion on that to sign that or anything else without that on the plan then, right? So we'd have to do some type of continuance would be my,
Well, I mean, he's coming in, he wants to discuss his letter that he wrote.
coming in tonight.
He was supposed to come in tonight, but he's been in the hospital, so I presume that he will not be in.
I did see him the other day up West Ossipee, but not to talk to him.
Well,
or
he's
something.
had about 4 or 5 ambulance rides that I've heard of.
Not good.
So he was all the way down to Manchester at one time.
Do we need to make a motion to continue to the next meeting?
Yeah,
I would be glad to do that, to make a motion to continue that until the 21st of September, to give him a chance to come in, he's had problems.
any discussion?
Can we add to that motion possibly that we just send him a letter, just, stating that we're continuing based upon his health condition, and he should notify us if he's gonna extend out if he needs to extend out any further regarding his health condition.
He doesn't even notify he's missing a thing. That should be.
I don't know if we need to just draft him a letter, whether, I don't know what our protocol is there to do that, Connie, or whether we just have Laura
We don't
contact
have the
him.
protocol for
Okay.
it.
But we can have
I think
Laura
probably just we granted him continuance is good enough. And
Yeah, okay.
He needs to fix
No,
his
that's fine.
paperwork a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing to be the proper thing personally.
No big deal for him, I don't believe.
Alright.
I don't think so.
Under old business, we've got,
We need to make
We
a
make
vote on
vote
it,
on
Connie.
oh, I'm sorry. Roy made it,
And,
Hatham, second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Old business, Morse Pit. We have not, again, Laura's not here. She wasn't here Friday. So he might have answered, but gravel pits.
Basically, at this point, I'm waiting for the dairy stuff to come in. That's the only pit out of compliance right now.
They will be in first. They're scheduled the 21st, and Brad Lighton is scheduled the 21st.
Good.
And that's just to resubmit their renewal.
To straighten out their
Their-
license and renewals and stuff. and their
Mary is
plans.
renewal, Brad Lighton is new
Oh, right, right,
because of Cohen's death.
right.
I had a question too for Laura about catching when she's back in
Mhm.
on when's the last time other plans were done on other pits, that's all. Oh, like Brown Ridge Road, when's the last time it was updated? He's in compliance, but need to check his updates. His health's been pretty bad too, so. Fighting the same problem you have been.
Right there. Those are all the pits.
That's the master plan there, I shouldn't need
Yeah, I
that.
know. But those are all the pits and their status.
Mind if I borrow that a couple days?
No, that's Laura's. If you want the top copy, you can have it.
Yeah, I'll need copy. I'll have Laura copy when she's back in.
Here you go. You can have it. You got two of them, Dennis? You got,
No, but he used a lot more than I will.
well. After watching the last meeting, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about writing taking over Brooks Motors. Mr. Brooks shut down Brooks Motors last year. He never stopped selling cars or repairing them. So the day that Billy signed those papers and became owner, Kurt stopped.
So the auto sales was discontinued, but the repair and service
No.
work in the back did
No.
not?
Please listen.
I was just trying to clarify what you said.
Kurt Brooks shut down Brooks Motors.
Oh, okay.
Kurt still owned the property.
Mm-hmm.
He did 2 site plans on that property.
Right.
One for an addition and as you face the building in the back,
Right.
right-hand side. There is a separate piece of property with a 25-foot right-of-way to the tower.
Oh, right, right.
And that was a site plan too. So we get to the point where writing comes in to an already business that's going and changes owners. Now, in May, Roy, when I first brought this up, you were very adamant about he didn't have to do it because it was the same business, etc. And you and I had a little disagreement about it. And then I watched the meeting last week, and you want writing to come in.
Well,
In the first place, we have no authority to write a letter to writing to say for him to come in. There is nothing in our,
we don't have any authority to tell him you don't have to come in either.
I did not tell him that he didn't have to come in.
Well, that's what Steve's letter's all about right here, if you haven't read it.
I haven't read it.
This is what brought the whole mess up.
Billy came to a meeting and Martha can verify this, we talked on the porch. I said, Billy, this is gonna be a long meeting. You're not on the agenda, so you're gonna have to wait. And he said, well, I guess I won't. I said, as personally, I don't think you need a site plan. And that's all I said to him. Now, whether he took that as chairman, I was saying he didn't need a site plan, that was a misunderstanding between him and I. And when I see Bill, I will apologize to him. And as far as sending people in for a discussion, Steve's job is to enforce the rules and regulations of the town of Ossipee. Steve should be the one that says, you have to have a site plan, you don't need a site plan.
He did.
He said to come in for a informal discussion.
Basically, he said before the board, and the gentleman took it, and you said he didn't have to come before the board. And Steve's not here, so we should be discussing this at the next meeting.
Why? You discussed it last meeting with me. So as far as I'm concerned, that's Steve's job to say to us, he needs a site plan, he doesn't need a site plan.
Steve told him to come in.
For what? We have
To make,
no
to
authority.
make sure it's all set. That's what. So
We
you're blowing
can't-
up mountain out of a goddamn molehill.
No, I'm not.
Language,
Yes, you are.
please.
Thank you. I am not making a mountain out of a molehill. I am saying that Steve is the one, not us. We have no authority.
Steve requested it. That's what
Mr.
he
Chairman, may I ask, when Steve brought that up, wasn't it true that he suggested that when he had a conversation with the gentleman that he come in for an informal to let us know what he was doing? Wasn't that the initial discussion we had from Steve at that point? I don't remember for certain.
Maker and Steve brought it up,
Right.
and Laura contributed it to me, but
If you haven't read the letter, you should read it.
it's not the point.
It is the point.
No,
The letter's what started the whole thing.
What's the date on that letter, Connie?
August 15th.
Okay, so that was just
It
recent.
was last meeting.
Yeah.
And I still say they do not need, in the first place, under our regulations, a pre-application discussion is non-binding on either part. If somebody can show me in our regulations where we have the authority to tell someone to come in for an informal discussion where we have no say whatsoever about what he wants to do, it is also optional. So he can tell Steve, no, I don't want to do it. So,
Just so I may clarify that too, Connie, in our site plan review, phase 1, pre-application conceptual consultation for 602.1 procedure, it states, that's letter A, prior to formal submission of a plan, owner, developer, or authorized agent is encouraged to submit to the board a conceptual plan, written summary, or proposed development. Such submission is only for purpose of discussion. The board will make no decision on the proposed development, but may offer guidance for changes that would facilitate its consideration. So basically, it states that we encourage them to do it, but we're not telling them they're required to do it.
You want to say something, Rick?
Yeah. I basically thought that about a year ago, we talked about encouraging anybody that came in that bought a business or anything commercial. We're trying to encourage them to come in and just, you know, meet with us and tell us what their plans were, if they were planning to make any changes. And you know, like Tim says, it was just something, you know, like a common courtesy. And if they declined it, that was their prerogative. But I think the whole problem became when, I don't know, maybe it is some confusion with writings and yourself, but I think the issue was that Steve had told them to come before the board based on that, and then he got feedback from writings saying that you told him he didn't need to. And I think that's what the problem is that Steve's the one that should be making the call as to whether he recommends they come in, not anybody from the board.
That's in the letter.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it, and,
He's pretty ticked off at the last meeting.
yeah.
Well, it's not our,
Right, it's not our jurisdiction.
correct.
Right.
We have one jurisdiction, and that's in gravel pits.
Yeah.
Other than that, we have no jurisdiction.
So the jurisdiction for identifying the requirement of an applicant to meet the terms or requirements of a site plan review lands solely on the head of our zoning enforcement officer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
That's the way I read it.
And I believe that's, I've been trying to find some of that language, and it doesn't specifically state that in our site plan review regulations.
But
But he is responsible for enforcing our
Correct.
zoning ordinance and the associated requirements. And as such, the site plan review falls into that category.
correct.
So,
He should be the one that says to the applicant, no, you don't need a site plan. Yes, you need a
Right.
site plan.
right. I
And
wholeheartedly agree
and-
with that.
And he told him come before the board to see if he needed one or not, to talk to us, and he got the impression that you told him he didn't have to come before us, which ticked him
He
off.
doesn't.
Well,
It's
you
his
can't-
prerogative.
You don't have the
You're
jurisdiction
doing the
to tell
same
him.
I
thing you
didn't
accused
tell
me
him
of.
that. I'm saying he has the prerogative of not coming in.
Right. You're telling the guy you don't have to come in, so you're doing Steve's job, then I say something, you're giving me hell for it. It's a double thing, double standard.
Well,
Well, there's a lot of double standards in this town. Because I can name 5 different places that have had new businesses, and they've never come in front of this board,
right.
and they changed. So, to sit here and say that everybody is being fair by having them come in and do an informal discussion is wrong. Yes,
I think this whole thing might be just a misunderstanding of who said what. I mean, Steve had a legitimate complaint come in about. The feedback he got was different from what you're saying. So the gentleman misunderstood you when you were standing on the porch, if that's what you said. So that's what this is all about. I don't know of any other issue other than that single issue. At least I haven't
as
heard
far
of
as
any.
writing goes, no.
Uh,
But, I
I
mean,
think in this case, I think Steve wanted him to come before the board because that's something that we had all thought would be a good idea. So that he's making that part of his job now and make sure they do
But-
come in. They don't have to, just like you said, but he's encouraging them to.
Right.
And then he finds out later that you had said he didn't have to. I think that's where it comes down to. And I think we've answered that. I think you gave an explanation for it. I
Mr.
find no reason not to believe you.
Mr. Chairman, just to, maybe to put this to rest, maybe we can just move forward on this by saying in the future, as someone comes in and approaches either Laura or someone from the board or the board on a new project, they should be reminded that their first point of contact should be our zoning officer. And I mean, it doesn't clearly state that in the site plan review regulations, but I mean, that is the procedure we have been following in the past, not all the time, but we should be. And I think moving forward, that would be the solution, I believe, to solve this from coming up again.
Yes,
I think that would be a good change to put in the zoning ordinance for town meeting.
Well, I get, in the future, I mean,
the site plan regulations have nothing to do with the town meeting.
Right.
All right, well then we ought to make it a part of our regulations to avoid this type of stuff, and
well,
it just gives the impressions of impropriety. I mean, granted, nobody's thinking anybody did anything wrong, but, there is, seems to be
Well, I
an
mean, to
impression.
me, and I'm gonna state it right out, that to have someone come in and have an informal discussion, we can't vote on it.
right.
We can't tell them what to do.
Well, then why are we doing it for everybody else?
That's what I'm big question mark.
Well, and as,
And since the last meeting,
right.
I have mulled this over in my head. That Steve should be telling me either site plan or no site plan. And then inform us that he has said to the people, site plan or no site plan.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but I thought the duties of this board, we're supposed to be here to help the public, businesses or anybody that wants to do something in this town that comes before us. So if we're here for that reason, anybody that wants to do something and is not sure of what they want to do or how to do it, like in the case of the Dawson situation, sometimes it's best if they come in. They don't have to, like you said, but if we encourage them to come before the board and they tell us what they're planning on doing, they've got several people sitting here familiar with all the zoning ordinances and can help them get through the process rather than ignore that they're there until they come in with a site plan. Isn't it better to know what something's being done in town and be there to help them rather than?
I feel that's Steve's job.
Right.
Martha, you want
So I was under the impression that the planning board was here for just what Dennis just said. In fact, that was gonna be my question, but as Dennis explained it, I thought, well, okay, now I know. We are here for help and guidance.
Sure.
It's been 10 years
That
I've been
was
here.
my impression of what we're here for. But lately, I wasn't sure. But thank you,
Well, I
Dennis,
mean-
because that was my next question and you
A
answered.
lot of the cases that have come in front of us lately have been very controversial. Westwood Shores, Valley Point, Ossipee Recovery.
Yeah, but that's all the more reason for us to have these informals, so the public can see it and get a better understanding of what's going on than not having it out there so people can see. I mean, I think that was the impression I had when I came to this board. I'm not all that up on things that some of you are, but I feel like I want to try and help. I don't want to stop people from doing things.
No, I don't want to
I
stop
want to
people.
see them
No, but-
prosper and do things.
I hear what you're saying, Dennis, but again, to defer back to our procedural requirements of site plan review, pre-application conceptual consultation, which is, a non-binding informal meeting. It very clearly states that they're here for the purpose of discussion and to give us an opportunity to make no decision on the proposed development, but may offer guidance for for changes that would indicate its consideration. It doesn't say anywhere, and it doesn't state anywhere about input from the public relative to this informal review, because that is not the time that occurs.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying that, but I think that the process is there, it's documented well. We just need to make sure that we are all in agreement and understand, as to Steve, that he is our initial point of contact in initiating the process with the applicant, so that we know that the applicant goes to Steve and he makes the determination based upon site plan review and, zoning ordinance and all of the other regs that we have in town and in the state, that he will be the point of contact that says, this is the thing you have to do, go see Laura or whatever. And I think that would solve this from coming up again. And like you said, Connie, there have been a lot of projects that have come through both before and during the time I've been on the planning board. And there have been times when they get very emotional and there are, let's call it opinions. And we are bound by our enforcement, our administration regulations to be nonpartisan as part of the decision-making process. In other words, we look at the application and at its face value and determine if, number one, the application is complete, number two, that all of the terms of the application have been met, and number three, that there are no conflicts or whatever that are relative to our regulations and ordinances. So, that's all I can say about that.
Go ahead, Mike.
I agree with what Tim's saying, but I still think if somebody walked through that door right now
Right.
and thought they might like to take this little office across the street and do something, this would be the place I'd come.
Oh,
would come
I
into
don't
the planning
disagree at all.
board,
I don't disagree at all.
Say, okay, guys, I got a couple ideas and I'm looking for some guidance.
Right.
That's what we should be here for.
Right, we
I-
certainly encourage that they go through the channels to contact Steve or Laura
That's
first,
right.
but if somebody walks in, I don't have any difficulty with them saying, I'm not on your agenda, but I would like to come before you and present informally my intent on doing this project in the future. And if we have the time frame available to us in that particular evening, I say go for it. I don't see
Exactly.
anywhere that that's prevented in our
Exactly.
regulations.
And at the end of it, when it's all over, just say to him, we've given you our ideas, our suggestions, whatever.
Right,
Now,
then they have to follow
go-
the
go
procedures
see
and the
Steve.
protocols and,
That's
right,
right, but-
I agree.
May I remind
Turn
the-
it away and be-
May I remind the board, we actually passed our agenda, so we can do that.
Right.
Anything comes before this meeting.
Absolutely. No, that's what I'm saying. I was reiterating it because I think we know that we've had collectively and in the past hiccups on procedures and sequential requirements. And it helps us, tonight helps us remind ourselves that we know that we have to be impartial and we have to go about following that which is stated in our regs and in our zoning and in the RSA.
I started,
Go ahead, Roy.
when I started 10 years ago, if you weren't on the agenda, you couldn't address the board.
Right.
I changed the agenda so that now we will be pledge. Then you'll have your roll call procedures. And then there'll be public input. But the public input
Right.
shall not have anything to do with something on the agenda.
So someone could come in at that point in time with a
With a question.
potential
This was one
proposal
of-
as an informal.
This was one of
Yeah.
the selectmen's squawks, was that we didn't have we made everybody wait
Till the,
till the end.
right, which I remember we did vote on that, and that made a lot of sense. It was logical to do because they were there for an informal, and usually informals are not long and drawn out. So,
But and I believe the way Laura wrote it on the agenda was that you could not speak on anything on the agenda.
correct. During that period of public
You-
input.
You could talk on the agenda itself when it got to it.
Right.
Martha, you wanted to say something?
No, no,
You
What's that? No, I'm just fit, no, I'm fine.
But I think that so we will have to change our site plan regulations again.
You say we do not, or you think we do?
Well, I mean, you people want Steve as,
Well, I would like, just to be honest with you, Connie, I would like an opportunity, and I don't know, I would suggest, not recommend, but suggest that every one of us review all of the requirements that are identified in the site plan review requirements to make sure that we have an understanding of what the procedures are, but also if we have any questions, so that if we do decide to modify that, there's a whole procedure that we have to go through relative to the RSA requirements.
all we
Public
have to
hearing
do-
and all of that.
all we have to do is bring it up in one meeting, vote on it,
Right.
set an agenda for a public hearing for
Exactly.
that one, notice it, and then we can adopt it.
Yeah, I just suggest doing that just so that we're all on the same page as far, or have it, if we have any questions relative to our requirements for the regs.
I'm not sure we need new regulations in the county, okay? I think we have a situation, we dealt with it here tonight, I think we all have an understanding that our point man is Steve.
Yeah.
He makes a determination when someone comes to see him, whether they have to come before this board or not, for a site plan, or maybe not. If they don't, then he may still suggest to them, whether it's for prenup to that, having a site plan, or just an informal, I wanna let you know what I'm doing, but I don't know, I was told I don't have to be here kind of thing, to come before the board to let us know what's going on. I mean, I can't visualize anybody that's gonna start a business in this town, who wouldn't wanna come before a board and start it with a good reputation, or
Absolutely.
start on the right foot.
Absolutely.
Why would they refuse and say, no, I don't want anything to do with you? So, I think we have a point man, he makes the decision, they come to us, and we help them as much as we can. You don't need a regulation for that, do you? I mean, it's just good common sense. Sometimes we need to work with common sense. We don't need rules all the
I
time.
mean, Steve said, well, I'm gonna send everybody to you.
What's wrong with that?
Now, but the question I have about that statement, and I remember when Steve said that, and at the time it didn't really occur to me, but the question I would have about that statement is, that then puts the responsibility on our hands to make the decision whether they need a site plan review or not.
Correct.
And as our discussion has ensued,
We
that
have no
isn't-
authority to
is-
do that.
Exactly, that is Steve's responsibility to be that filter at his office to determine whether they have to submit relative to the requirements for site plan review or not, based upon the project, the site, and whatever previous use or whatever the requirements are. So I think maybe just a clarification, I don't know whether it's a formal conversation that the board with you as chairman has with Steve that says, this is the procedure as we understand it, and this is what we anticipate that you will be doing as the zoning enforcement officer when somebody first approaches the town with a new project. And I think that would be real simple. It just clears the air so that there's no question as to who's the first point person, what their responsibility is, and then what the ensuing responsibilities are for whoever's involved, which would be us, or if it has to go before zoning or whatever.
Amen.
Connie?
I'm under the impression that Steve knows that. He knows that that's what he's supposed to
Right,
do.
I agree too.
I
but-
don't think he needs to be written and.
Well, but when he made that statement, he's gonna send everybody to us. I think that just to get the air clear, so that there's an understanding amongst all of us that the procedure is this, and that, I mean, I think you're right, Steve does understand that he is the point person, but, when he did state something to the effect that, he'll send everybody to us, maybe that, I don't know, maybe that was
Maybe
out of
he won't say,
context.
but I'm
or-
just
yeah,
saying.
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit of frustration with him because.
I agree.
You know, one week it's one way, next week it's another
I
way.
agree.
so-
That's why I say having just a formal conversation with Steve during our next meeting, and just to clear the air and say, this is our expectation, this is the responsibility we understand that you have, this is a responsibility we understand that we have as the board, and then we just move on and start dealing with projects accordingly.
And there's gotta be consistency.
Right.
Same for everybody.
Right,
If
right.
board members will stop giving a hard time telling him to do his job, he's doing
Right.
his job.
Yeah,
And too many times, the past code enforcement officer and the present one, he's been given hell by certain parts of this board not doing his job right.
Yeah.
And that lies the problem, because he's afraid he'll get fired if he doesn't.
and quite honestly, just along those same points, Roy, I have to say, based on my experience over the last several years with interacting with Steve and the previous zoning enforcement officer, I think Steve is doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
He's up to his eyeballs and stuff right now, which is, you know, I mean, he's doing his job, and I think he's doing it well. When
a
these
tough
things
job,
come up,
too.
it's certainly worthwhile for us to assist
I
and
never said he
clarify.
wasn't.
No, I'm just
One-
saying.
One at a time.
I'm just throwing that out, because I really do think he's doing a great job based upon past history.
You know what was saying?
He's in a pretty tough situation, really, because, you know, he's gonna deal with the angry landowner and then the angry board members.
And the selectmen.
And the angry selectmen.
Well, yeah.
But he has been doing a real good job, you know, he takes the time to explain stuff and he doesn't get worked up, you know. And I think what happens is at a certain point, his level of frustration just gets to where he feels he's getting it from all ends and he, you know, we give him guidance on how we wanna, we'd like him to encourage anybody that's buying a business or you know, taking over a commercial space or whatever to come in and talk to us. And you know,
Wow,
it was set up so that, you know, he was gonna encourage and then this whole thing sorta,
I
you know,
mean,
started the frustration level again, you know? Plus, he's very busy right now.
Right, right.
I asked him a while ago that somebody moved into the Johnson's gas.
Yeah.
I said, what's going on? Oh, they'll be out of there shortly. That's the answer I got.
Should we be discussing Steve without him being here?
No, no.
Why? You discussed me without being here.
Actually, I put a stop to that, that was called a special meeting. He didn't bother to bring that up.
I didn't hear that.
Well, he didn't pay attention too well, I guess.
How about if we stop beating the dead horse?
That's right.
Yeah,
Let's
both
have
sides of
that.
it.
Anything else that anybody wants to say? Damien, you got any questions?
I didn't know if everybody was gonna hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
We can do that if it would make you happy. No, we're not gonna do that.
Make a good picture,
I
right?
don't think so.
Anyway, I know I have to step out of the room, and it sounded like you took a vote on your rules of conduct. Sorry, I had to step out, but is that
They
all?
were adopted last year.
Yep.
We all voted against him.
They were just reviewed.
So is that it for the planning board's response to all the concerns from the selectmen and others?
I just think it was time to review them,
Yeah.
refresh everybody's
I agree.
memory and what we're supposed to be doing here. That's my take on it.
Yeah, we're all supposed to be working as a team, you know, with
That's right.
Steve, the selectmen,
Right.
everybody. And, you know, generally, you know, anybody that's involved with the town is very, very cooperative. It's one of the more cooperative towns I've seen, you know, with the different boards and stuff. And, you know, I've worked all over southern New Hampshire, northern Mass, all over Maine.
And
I think sometimes we lose sight that we're here to help.
Right.
And when people come here, they're taking part of their day to come in that door and voice a concern.
Yes.
In the past, there have been things that happened in here, right on television, where people on this board were very nasty to people, and that gets out there. People see that.
Yeah.
When you get up and walk out of a meeting,
Right.
when someone's speaking, that's an insult to the town, not an insult to us.
And I-
We all sit here as representatives of the town of Ossipee.
I was told
And,
that we should.
we need to be more careful with our words and how we treat people coming through that door. That's the best thing we can do to raise our image. It's got
I
nothing to
think
do with
this,
rules and regulations. It's
timing
got to do
public
with
comment.
image. We have to appreciate them coming in and voicing opinions. We can't be yelling at them
Right.
or treat our misconduct. Just can't be-
And I
we can't
agree
do
with-
that anymore.
I
We
agree with
cannot
what
do
Martha
that.
said in that certainly maybe periodically we remind ourselves by somebody just reiterating that, you know, this is our primary goal. It's a good reminder, because like Connie pointed out, we do have projects that come before us that are heated relative to the general community and create a lot of discussion. I use that term completely, it's discussion.
Loosely.
But I think having that reminder is very good for all of us, because we do have an obligation. We were elected to this board to provide a service to the town, for the town, and for those people that are coming into town. And that's all I have to say about that.
I think one of the frustrations that we have is that the ZBA will grant a variance, and then the people come to us,
Yeah.
and we have to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
We have no choice.
Right, because the decision has already been made by the zoning board.
Correct.
I won't argue with that point.
Yeah, we took an awful beating on Westwood Shores.
But see, that's not, be that as it may, that still doesn't give us
I acknowledge
pass
that I
to
walked
scream
out of
and
two
yell at
meetings that
someone
I shouldn't
who's
have walked
not
out.
voicing an opinion.
One at a time.
I'm sorry,
I acknowledge, I walked out of two
but
meetings,
you're not the
but,
only one.
yeah,
you know.
I was extremely frustrated at that point, and
But
it
we're-
was
we
best
have-
that I walked out.
We have to be held at a higher level. We have to remember who we represent.
Right. Our community wants
Someone
to
can
look
be
to
yelling
us
and
for
screaming out
guidance.
there, but we have to
And we
control
want
ourselves.
them to be able to look to us for guidance. And like I said, when I read that first paragraph or first sentence about our procedure, you know, all we're doing is encouraging people to come in and introduce themselves and say, it gives us a leg up on what they're gonna do, and it'll help us guide them through the process, which is one of our roles and tasks here on the planning board.
But I'm aware now that I can ask Connie to say, you know, it's been 5 minutes, 6 minutes, you know, because we've had some situations where we've had people in the public beating a dead horse. You know, a lot of times I think the people think that if they don't want the project, then it just shouldn't happen, you know, regardless of the property owner's rights. And, you know,
And regardless to personal opinions.
right.
And that's, I will be the first to grant you that I know that that's hard to do sometimes with
Yeah.
some of the projects that come through a zoning board or a planning board and even the select board. There are times when people have feelings about a particular proposal
Yeah.
that makes it harder to move forward. And we just have to remember, we have, as we've all said, we have to rise above that.
We must remember one thing. Two things. The deployment of the board, and when you walk through the door, those books, not your opinion,
Right,
those books
right.
are the only thing that we can stand on.
I've had two principles I started. I let the door, leave my feelings out there about the person who's running the board. I do my damage, treat them all the same. And I try to give them all the same rights, whether I like them or not. And everybody has the same rights. If it's a gray area, I always go to the public. That's what I think it should be. I don't think anybody in 10 years can say I've ever done different.
Well, a couple of times, Roy, you've said my opinion,
Still my
which we all
opinion.
have at one time or another, and we've all let our own frustrations of things go get the better of us.
Still came down to vote, I still voted for the party if they're illegal.
So as long as it's legal,
That's the important thing.
I can't have you sign this boy because it's a draft.
Let's wrap it up here.
Yep.
Is there any other business we have to discuss?
Got time to adjourn.
Did we get, just the notices, the Ridings auto sale issue? Did we get a response from them on
No,
that?
we have, well,
Okay, I thought you mentioned that, but I wasn't sure.
no, I have a copy of the letter.
Okay. I know it generated a lot of discussion about the procedures, but on the other hand, I just wanted to see if, we're not moving forward on that yet because we haven't had a chance to review the letter.
That letter, if you want to read it, we can read it.
No, not necessary for me, I was just wondering where that stood today.
To whom it may concern has been brought to the planning board's attention that zoning officer has requested on at least 2 occasions for you to come before the planning board for an informal discussion. It was also brought to the planning board's attention and discussed at their August 21st, 2018, that the fact that no one member of the planning board can make a decision without a majority vote before the entire board, and no member of the board can override a decision of the zoning enforcement officer. You are being requested as owners of riding auto sales to come before the planning board for an informal discussion to inform the board of your business intentions now that you've relocated. If you have any questions or concerns, please call or email the planning board office for assistance. Kind regards, Laura Nash.
That's fine, I think that answers my question for now.
But,
We need a response from him whether he's gonna come or not.
but, the vote that you took was illegal. Because that was an enforcement vote.
I thought we were just voting to request a letter to have him come
That's
before
what
us.
it was, and Steve asked us to do it.
Yeah, but a request can be denied. It's not like we're demanding him to come in before the board. We're requesting for an informal review based upon a suggestion, and probably request is not the right wording to use. Maybe the suggestion is based upon our regulations. But anyway, I didn't want to belabor the point, but at least we know that where it stands right now.
The horse is dead,
Right,
officially.
right. Okay, thanks, Tony.
Any other business?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Martha.
Motion to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
I second it. Rick?
Yep.
I think 3 people, oh,